guys, so in the last lesson I discussed a jazzed up version of the 12-bar blues. Now, one of the most common sort of techniques or ideas used in jazz is the idea of a turnaround. That is, at the end of your chord progression, you do a little bit of a mini chord progression to get you to the dominant at the very end, that is in the key of C, to get us to the G7. Which naturally sort of leads on or implies that we're starting again, we're starting from the chord progression all over again from the start, back to the C, to the tonic. So the G7 sort of wants to or implies that the next chord is going to be the C, or the C7 in the blues. So the simplest turnaround you can do is just playing the 5 chord, that is the G7. And so in a lot of the easier variations on the 12-bar blues, which I covered in earlier videos, that's exactly what they did. So playing the last 4 bars of a standard 12-bar blues, that is from the 5 chord, would go something like this, G, F, C, and then on your last bar, you're back on the G7, as your turnaround to sort of take you back into bar 1 of the next cycle of the 12-bar blues, into the C. But of course that's a really, really simple turnaround. There are more complex turnarounds. The one I taught you in the last video, sort of the jazzed up 12-bar blues, looked like this. So again, the last 4 bars would be G7, F7, and then this is a 2-bar turnaround, so it goes E minor 7, A7, D minor 7, G7. So the reason that works is because it sort of follows a cycle of fifths idea, where the E is the 5th of the A is the 5th of the D is the 5th of the G, and the G, which is the ending sort of target of the turnaround, the G7, is the 5th of the C. So really in that whole turnaround we're just going down in fifths, from the E to the A, to the D, to the G, to the C. Now they're all in sort of the jazz world, they're called 2-5-1s, and so this is a secondary 2-5-1, that is a 2-5-1 before the 2-5-1, and we're in the key of D major. So the 2-5-1 is, the 2 of the D is E and the 5 is A. So we go E minor, because that's in the key of D major, to A7, which is also in the key of D major. Then we change keys going to the C major key, and we play the exact same thing, playing the D minor 7 to the G7, and finally getting to the C. The other reason that works is because it's all quite sort of close to each other and there's repetition. So you're playing the same type of chords, just one note down. And that's why that works well. Now, a lot of other jazz turnarounds use that really basic idea, or that really basic sort of turnaround chord progression, and sort of substitute chords within that. So if you've seen my lesson on chord substitutions, then you'll know that E minor 7 is a substitute for C major 7, because 3 of the notes are the same. The C down the bottom gives you a C major 7, the D at the top, getting rid of the C, gives you a E minor 7. So instead of playing the E minor 7, we can play a C7. Now that's not a perfect substitute because we've got the B flat instead of the B, so we've got a dominant 7 rather than a major 7, but it's close enough and the idea is still there. So it becomes a 1-6-2-5, which is also a really, really common chord progression, and that's called the I Got Rhythm chord progression, and used a lot in a lot of jazz songs. But that sounds like this. And again, the last 4 bars of the 12-bar blues would go G7, F7, then C7, to A7, to D minor 7, to G7, and then back into it, so back into your next cycle of 12-bar blues. So that's another really good turnaround. So instead of E, A, D, G, you have C, A, D, G. Now taking this even further, you can do more chord substitutions. So if you again have seen my lesson on chord substitution, you'll know that a really widely used chord substitution is the tritone substitution. So if we have the A7, then we can substitute that for the tritone, so 3 tones up, 1, 2, 3. So A7 can become E flat 7. And in my sort of chord substitution video, I explain why that actually works, because it might seem a bit weird, but it does actually make sense, and it has some logic behind it. So check out that video if you want an explanation. But essentially, instead of then using the turnaround that we played last from the C to the A, we can tritone substitute the A and get the E flat. So we have a C7 to an E flat 7. Then we can go down to a D7, which is effectively a substitute for the D minor 7. We're playing the dominant 7 instead of the minor 7, which is perfectly fine. And then we can tritone substitute the G, which would give you a 1, 2, 3, and D flat 7. So a G7 becomes a D flat 7. And that's effectively your turnaround then. So instead of going C, A, D, G, we're going C, E flat, D, D flat, and back down to the C. So again, the last 4 bars would be G, F, C, E flat, D, D flat, and back into the C for the fresh turnaround. Now you can do the exact same thing, but tritone substituting, instead of the A and the G, you tritone substitute the D. So the D tritone substituted is the A flat, so you can play A flat 7 in place of the D7. So doing that, you can get a turnaround that sounds like this. C7, A7, A flat 7, G7, back into your C for your next round of the 12-bar blues. So the reason that works is separate from all those chords being tritone substituted, which is a great way to substitute things, the chords are also moving chromatically. And that sounds great when you're playing a piece of music because all the notes and all the chords are close to each other, so it sounds like you're sort of taking little baby steps. And for whatever reason, that's quite pleasant to the ear, rather than doing like large jumps. And that's another reason why, if you've noticed, I've been playing sort of different inversions. When I play the D minor 7, I play it here, and the G7, I play a second inversion G7. And the reason is that's because the notes are close to each other. It sounds better than going, because then that sort of sounds far apart. So it's the same type of idea. All the notes just follow one step at a time. So. The notes are close to each other, and that sounds pleasant to the ear. So all those chord substitutions are all really based off this really simple turnaround that I showed you in the last video of the Jazz 12-bar blues. So really, you can use any of those turnarounds in any of your sort of slightly jazzier versions of the 12-bar blues, or in fact in any kind of jazz song ever. A lot of songs, including a lot of jazz songs, begin on the tonic, on the first note. And if you've got a turnaround that finishes on the dominant chord, therefore implying the tonic, the first chord, you can sort of do any kind of little turnaround that finishes on the dominant to get you back in and sort of, it's almost like a sort of the curtains closing. It's this sort of cycle is over, and then we begin again, the curtains reopen, you're back into the tonic chord, and you start again. I hope that made sense. Thanks for watching, guys.